Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our Health Science, Not Just for Humans workshop. As you saw from that video, as we talk about our veterinarian medicine curriculum. And so, unfortunately, our speaker could not make it for the Q&A, but I have asked Dusty Moore, the president and CEO of our company, to hop on and answer some of the questions that we had in the chat. And so I am going to read the questions that y'all have added, but if there's any additional ones as I'm speaking, or Dusty, if you could put those in this chat here in the Zoom. So let's get started. So the first question is, do you use industry certifications in your health science course? If so, what advice do you have for implementing industry certs for the first time? So of course, this was a question for Melissa, as she's not here, but I can answer it. As there is multiple health science certifications, as we have the vet medicine certification, and we provide review material so that you can review this with all of your students and that they're prepared for the certification exam. And so as Clayton was talking about towards the end of that session, you can add a certification the same way as you would add a course. And we add multiple review content so your students are prepared for that 100-question vet medical application certification. So let's go to the next question. Do you use ICEV online curriculum instead of any state designated textbook? So ICEV is a state designated textbook in most states. So we are on the state approved list. So you can use ICEV as your vet tech textbook. The next question I want to give to Dusty, and that was, you mentioned using the health science course and a pre-vet, your health science courses in a pre-vet course. Have you received any feedback from students who have went to veterinarian school after the course, and how did this help them? So,
I have went to.
You want to answer that one?
All right, sure. Can everyone hear me? I think, Landy, you might have to mute. So in regards to answering the question about has anyone gone on to vet school, the certification is still relatively new, but we do have folks that are entering or about to enter vet school that have gone through that certification program before. We also have folks at the higher ed level that have utilized the certification to add to their resume in those areas. The biggest thing that we hear as you are preparing for vet school is within vet school, you have to know all animal species. So you have to know large animal as well as small animal. And where we hear that the VetMed certification helps the most for those students preparing to enter vet school is a lot that are going to vet school have only had that experience with small animals. And so they're used to going to the veterinarian with their dogs, their cats, etc. But when you go to vet school, you've got the full curriculum at your disposal. So, or you're going to have to know all of those different species. And so this gives them a very well-rounded introduction to those other large animal species that they are going to have to be assessed on in those things.
Thank you, Dusty. So I put in the chat if anybody has any further questions. As I went through the majority of the questions, there wasn't many in this group. But there was a question in the chat about have any of the panel used the Ducks Unlimited for vet tech certifications. So I know that Melissa, all she has used was the vet tech certification. She did not mention anything about the Ducks Unlimited, but that is a great certification for that ecology, conservation, wildlife management if you're wanting to teach that to your students as well. Are there?
Expand on that. Sorry, Landy and I are in the same room, so we're having to mute, unmute, do all that good stuff. But just as an expansion on that, what was covered for the VetMed certification, the Ducks Unlimited certification is going to follow that same flow. So that's one of the nice things about the certs that are tested for on ICEV is if you have the flow for one of those certifications down, you're going to have the flow for all of them down. So once you understand how the curriculum, the content, all of those pieces work, how industry standards are assessed, how the certification test launches. Once you have all of those down for one of your certifications, it's going to be the same for all the certs that are tested for on ICEV. Also wanted to expand on one other area that Landy had answered earlier about the textbook. So in a lot of states, as she had said, where there is a CTE textbook adoption or instructional materials adoption, ICEV participates in those adoption as it opens up extra funding for you to implement a product like this. If your state does not do a CTE textbook adoption, but you do it at the local level, as you start going through that process, if you'll contact us, we can help you fill out all the paperwork and those things to where you can have that textbook, ICEV as a textbook at that local level. Okay, there's another question here. Can all health science teachers teach the vet tech ones? My school wants to implement more courses, certs, but like an after-school program until we get a teacher. Great question, and I think that the answer lies in your state certification programs. So as you look at your state CTE teacher certification guidelines, that's where you're going to want to check to see if vet tech can be offered in a health science program of study, or if it needs to fall under the ag science program of study, or both. So it's honestly a myriad across the country. I know you see it in agriculture programs the most, but we are starting to see it pop up more and more in health science programs as well. So you're going to want to look at your state CTE teacher certification guidelines for that.
Thanks, Dusty. Are there any further questions? We have a few more minutes, but and we can definitely give you the code, and we can end the Q&A if there's no further questions. But I will just wait a second, and if there's any questions that you have, you want to chat those over. All right, well, if that is it, thank you all for attending our Health Science Not Just for Humans. I know Melissa said she was starting school today, so that's why she was unable to attend. If you have any questions for myself, I'll put my email in the chat and you can shoot me those questions. Dusty just put the code in, so for your challenge code. So it is, if you want to write this down, not human, humans, so NOTHUMANS 048. So not humans 048. Don't forget to redeem this code in the CTE challenges. So I will put my email in here. If you have any questions, please shoot me an email.